The rain outside our window had been falling for hours, steady and rhythmic, like the soft beating of a drum in the distance. The gray afternoon had a certain hush to it, as though the world outside had slowed down and chosen silence over chaos. I stood near the window of our bedroom, tracing a finger down the fogged-up glass, watching droplets race one another to the sill. Behind me, the room was dim, the golden glow of the bedside lamp creating a halo against the cream-colored walls. The faint scent of sandalwood lingered in the air, the result of the candle I had lit earlier when I needed comfort. My thoughts had been restless all day, drifting between unfinished chores, long-forgotten memories, and quiet reflections on the life I shared with my husband, Daniel. We had been married for 8 years, and though the years had brought with them routine and responsibility, there were moments when time folded back, moments when the weight of the world fell away and left only the two of us, bound together in an unshakable closeness. I felt his presence before I heard him. It wasn't the sound of his footsteps that alerted me. It was the way the air in the room seemed to shift, like it always did when he entered. A familiar warmth. A quiet certainty. Lost in your thoughts again? Daniel's voice was calm, touched with a teasing note. I smiled faintly without turning. Maybe. He moved closer, and I caught his reflection in the glass. His tall frame filled the space behind me, his dark hair slightly tousled from running his hand through it the way he always did when he was thinking. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, and he looked both tired and at peace at the same time. Daniel stopped right behind me, so close I could feel the quiet heat of him through my sweater. His reflection met mine in the glass, his eyes steady, searching but tender. He didn't say anything else at first. He simply stood there, breathing in sync with me, letting the silence stretch. And then slowly, deliberately, his hand slid down the curve of my back. The movement wasn't hurried. It was gentle, sure, filled with an intention that spoke louder than words. It was a gesture he had made countless times over the years, yet in that moment, with the rain outside and the quietness inside, it felt brand new. My breath caught. Not because I was startled, but because of what that touch meant. Daniel wasn't the kind of man who showered me with constant dramatic gestures. His love lived in subtleties, in the way he brewed my coffee the exact way I liked it without asking, in the way he stayed up late fixing things around the house, so I wouldn't worry, in the way his hand found mine even in his sleep. But this simple glide of his hand down my back carried a kind of unspoken claim, an assurance that he was here, that he knew me, and that he was taking charge of the moment in a way only he could. I finally turned my head slightly, my gaze finding his in the window's reflection. His eyes held mine, steady, unwavering, and I felt my shoulders relax as though the tension I hadn't realized I was holding had been quietly lifted away. "What are you doing?" I asked softly, though my voice carried no protest. "Reminding you," he replied simply. "Of what?" "That you don't have to hold everything together all the time." His hand lingered against the small of my back, steadying me. "That I'm here. That I've always been here." His words pierced straight through me. I hadn't spoken much about it, but lately the weight of balancing work, home, and the silent expectations I put on myself had left me restless. I often felt like I needed to do more, be more, hold every piece in place. Yet here was Daniel, wordlessly easing the invisible burden with nothing but his touch and his presence. I turned then, no longer content to see him only in the reflection. Facing him, I studied his face, the familiar lines of his jaw, the calm in his eyes, the slight curve of a smile playing at his lips. "You always know what to say," I whispered. He shook his head gently. "Not always. But I know what you need, even when you don't tell me." For a moment, the rain filled the silence between us. Outside, the world was soaked in gray, but inside, everything felt vivid and alive. Daniel's hand didn't leave my back. Instead, he pulled me just a little closer until I was leaning into him, my head resting lightly against his chest. I could hear the slow, steady beat of his heart beneath the fabric of his shirt, grounding me in a way nothing else could. "Do you remember the first time you let me do this?" he asked quietly. I smiled against his chest. "In the library, wasn't it?" He chuckled softly. "Yes. You were studying, completely lost in your books. I walked up behind you, not sure if you'd even notice. I slid my hand down your back then too. And I froze. I said, recalling it clearly. Not because I didn't like it, but because I felt it all the way through me. Like my whole body knew it was you. That's how I knew, Daniel murmured, his voice low and filled with memory. That was the moment I realized I wanted to be the one you always turned to. The one whose hand you'd always feel. The memory warmed me, pulling me deeper into the comfort of his arms. So much had changed since those early days, jobs, houses, responsibilities, but the essence of us had remained untouched. We stayed like that for a long time, swaying slightly as though moved by music only we could hear. The rain became our rhythm, the dim light our stage, and the unspoken bond between us the only script we needed. When Daniel finally spoke again, his voice was steady but tinged with something more. You've been carrying so much lately. I see it in the way your shoulders stay tense, in the way your eyes wander when you think I'm not looking. I don't mean to, I admitted. I want to make sure everything is okay. For us. For you. You don't have to, he said firmly, pulling back just enough to meet my gaze directly. That's my job too. You forget that sometimes. You forget that you don't have to be strong on your own. I blinked rapidly, emotion welling unexpectedly. His words weren't just comfort. They were a promise. A reminder of the vows we had spoken years ago. The vows he continued to live out every single day. I don't know what I'd do without you. I whispered, my voice thick. You'll never have to find out, he answered without hesitation. And then he drew me closer again, his hand sliding once more down my back, slower this time, deliberate, grounding me with every inch it traveled. He wasn't just touching me. He was telling me something, wordless but clear. That he had me, that he always would, that no storm outside or inside could ever change that. I breathed him in, the sandalwood and warmth, the quiet strength. My hands found his shoulders, anchoring myself in him as much as he anchored himself in me. For the first time in weeks, I let go. I let him take control of the moment. Let his steady presence quiet the storm inside me. Time blurred. Minutes, maybe hours passed, though it felt like no time at all. All I knew was that the rain outside eventually softened, tapering into silence, and when I finally pulled back to look at him, I realized my heart was lighter. The invisible weight I had carried for so long had slipped away, replaced by something stronger, trust, love, and the quiet certainty of us. Daniel brushed a strand of hair from my face and smiled. The kind of smile that belonged only to me. Better. I nodded. Words unnecessary.